Thanks for listening to our daily podcast. If you love what you're hearing and you want more, you can get all 3 daily hours ad-free and on demand for less than $3 per month. Go to michaelmedved.com and subscribe today. We have a special deal right now, 50% off an annual membership. Our program covers all the current controversies in the news with my independent and uncensored views. Become a MedHead member today. Find out more at michaelmedved.com. That's michaelmedved.com.
And now, your daily dose of debate, breaking news, and uncensored views. This is the Michael Medved Show.
And another great day in this greatest nation on God's green earth. But the question about this great day is, how should it be remembered? January 6th, Donald Trump wrote about January 6th, and he wrote about it on the old-fashioned tweet before he was doing Truth Social, etc. Donald Trump wrote, "These are the things and events that happen when a sacred landslide election victory is so unceremoniously and viciously stripped away from great patriots who have been badly and unfairly treated for so long. Go home with love and in peace. Remember this day forever." Yes, that was January 6th. Today is January 6th, but that was January 6th from 2001, a day that has been called a day of infamy. A number of commentators, including a opinion commentator in USA Today named Eric Lichtblau, has said that this should be remembered as a day of hate, that it should be remembered as one of the darkest days in the history of the country. What is it that happened on that day? And what is happening today? What is happening with our diplomacy? One of the president's top advisors, and in fact a lot of people believe his number one advisor, Stephen Miller, went on national TV, and asserted that the U.S. has a right not just to take over Venezuela, that's already in process, but to take over and to run and to take control of Greenland, which means what? Going to war against our NATO ally, Denmark? The entire thing is crazy. And this seems like we're living through some kind of weird Hollywood fantasy about auto pens and about foreign countries and taking control of those foreign countries, and charges of drug running that are stalwartly denied by the people being charged. What is going on? There is one of the things that's going on is there is a Republican retreat. Now, does that mean retreat like running away? No. But they have retreated from one thing. The announcement on NBC News says Republican retreat. President Donald Trump is delivering wide-ranging remarks to House Republicans at a meeting at the Kennedy Center. You notice some retreat there? The sign in front of that building says the Donald J. Trump Kennedy Memorial Center for the Performing Arts. And they took out the name Donald J. Trump from the Kennedy Center where they're meeting today. And they're supposed to be discussing the party's agenda for the coming year. What they are not discussing is some of the shocking memories from exactly 5 years ago today, which led us to a day of infamy. But will there be new days of infamy? Okay, let me go directly to this really shocking interview involving Stephen Miller and Jake Tapper on CNN. So this is not private. This is not protected. This is not off the record. It's on TV. Stephen Miller, a top aide to President Trump, asserted yesterday that Greenland rightfully belonged to the United States and that the Trump administration could seize the semi-autonomous Danish territory whenever it wanted. Nobody's going to fight the United States militarily over the future of Greenland, Mr. Miller told Jake Tapper, the CNN host, after being asked repeatedly whether he would rule out using military force. Now, wait a minute. We signed a treaty. Entering the United States into NATO. And what that says is that we consider an attack on any NATO ally who co-signed this treaty. The Article 5 of that treaty says that if any one of these member nations, and there are 30 of them, gets attacked, that we come to their defense. So if we attack Denmark in order to seize Greenland, then we have to come to Denmark's defense? Well, we do, unless we're going to tear up the NATO treaty and tear up that alliance. The remarks were part of a public push by Stephen Miller, long a powerful behind-the-scenes player in Trump administration policy. This is writing from CNN. To justify American imperialism and a vision for a new world order in which the United States could freely overthrow national governments and take foreign territory and resources so long as it was in the national interest. We live in a world, in the real world, Jake, that is governed by strength, that is governed by force, that is governed by power, said Stephen Miller. These are the iron laws of the world since the beginning of time. Okay, so we're going to tear up the NATO treaty. Is that what is going to be happening? Well, part of what President Trump was saying in this very historic pep talk he gave to the Republicans in Congress at their meeting at the Trump Kennedy Center, which was only identified as the Kennedy Center here. This is all extraordinary. And this morning, Trump was speaking about canceling the election. What election? Okay, this is complicated. And it's President Trump somewhat speaking about what's going on in Venezuela. But it's confusing. Here is the President of the United States this morning, clip 30.
We had the worst president, did the worst job, they had the worst policy. We have to even run against these people. Now, I won't say cancel the election. They should cancel the election because the fake news will say, he wants the elections canceled. He's a dictator. They always call me a dictator. Nobody's worse than Obama and the people that surrounded Biden. Not Biden. I don't think it was Biden. He didn't know what the hell was going on, okay? The election was rigged. He had no idea what happened. He still doesn't.
Which election was rigged? Was it the election of 2024, which Trump won, or was it the election of 2020, which he clearly lost? And then there's just this about winning the midterms now. This is President Trump this morning, clip 29.
You got to win the midterms, because if we don't win the midterms, it's just going to be, I mean, they'll find a reason to impeach me. I'll get impeached. We don't impeach them. You know why? Because they're meaner than we are. We should have impeached Joe Biden for 100 different things.
We're now talking impeachment, and this in the middle of a repeated conversation that he offered today, going back to the auto pen, which is, he believes, one of the greatest crimes in American history. We will get to that and more with President Trump worried about impeachment on the 5th anniversary of the day when he most deserved impeachment during his first term, January 6th, 2021. More coming up on the Medved Show.
The new year brings new health goals and wealth goals. Protecting your identity is an important step. Your info is in endless places that could expose you to identity theft, leading to lost funds. LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Resolve to make identity health and wealth part of your New Year's goals with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
There is some news coming out of Venezuela where they say that civil war fears grow as heavily armed far-left militias take over the streets of Caracas, that is the national capital. A gunfire was heard across Caracas last night as tensions remain sky-high after the U.S. raid capturing the country's president and First Lady, who both came before a judge and claimed that they are not guilty of the drug-running offenses running against them. Okay, this is already astonishing. We'll be talking about this with Robert Pape, a professor at the University of Chicago, on political violence and talking about the latest possibilities of very serious political violence embroiling the nation of 30 million, that is Venezuela. And here we have the Republican retreat this morning at the Trump Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, and to discuss the party's agenda. And the one thing that President Trump was particularly concerned about was that people recognize the difference between the Republican agenda and the Democratic agenda. Why? Because, as President Trump put it this morning, this is clip 27, the Democrats have one primary agenda item that is their priority, which is transgender sex change for everyone. Here's the way the President of the United States described it. This is clip 27.
They are mean and smart, but fortunately for you, they have horrible policy. They can be smart as can be, but when they want open borders, when they want, as I said, men and women's sports, when they want transgender for everyone, bring your kids in, we're going to change the sex of your child. Just send them our way. In some cases, like in Minnesota, they don't even tell the parents. Is that right? And nobody believes it when I say it. I think we have 6 states. Nobody, am I correct? Okay, Tom Emmer said yes, so. But it's true. Where the kid comes back, they keep the kid. They operate on the kid. They don't tell the parents. It's not believable.
No, it isn't believable because it's not true. I mean, think about how outrageous this is. You are telling people, many of whom are gullible, that in the state of Minnesota and elsewhere, apparently, he says 6 other states, they are taking your children out of your control, cutting off their very private bodily parts, and they don't tell you about it. And this is, he says, everyone is talking about this. The only one talking about it is Trump. I mean, maybe he might as well, now that Governor Walz is in Minnesota, is not running for re-election. Looks like Amy Klobuchar may be the Democratic candidate. She would be formidable. But she's a U.S. Senator now, but then again, that takes away any chance the Democrats have, and it's a very slight chance indeed of taking over the U.S. Senate. Let's leave that alone for a moment, because the president not only spoke about transgender for everyone, which, by the way, I don't think that's even been a slogan of demonstrators on a street. They may say equal rights to transgender people or something like that, but transgender for everyone, the whole idea of transgendered individuals is it's not everyone. It's not that God or the creator or nature played some kind of trick on people so that everyone out there is assigned the wrong sex at birth and they all need transgender treatment and hormone treatment and surgery. I mean, really, this is extraordinary. The trans community doesn't even use that slogan, transgender for everyone, but he always brings it up whenever he's in some trouble. And he also brings up something else, considering Trump's speech to Republicans this morning about health care and health care insurance. Here is the president's brilliant scheme. This is clip 26.
You can own health care. Figure it out. Let the money go directly to the people. It goes in a healthcare account. There are numerous things you can do, but you have to let no money for the insurance companies. I'm going to meet with the insurance companies. I said, I'm going to meet with them because I met with the prescription drug companies. And that's when I found out what was going on with the fact that we were paying 10 and 13 and 14 times more money than Europe and other places.
And what does he have in mind to fix it all? Well, it's complicated, and it's become more complicated because there is something else going on, which is that Representative LaMalfa of California, a Republican, passed away yesterday. He died suddenly. And Trump gave him a tribute upon his untimely death, making the margin between Republicans and Democrats in the House of Representatives closer than ever. Here was the President of the United States talking about Representative LaMalfa, who passed away yesterday.
Tremendous sorrow at the loss of a great member, a great member, Congressman Doug LaMalfa, who passed away yesterday, as you probably have heard. And he was the leader of the Western Caucus, a fierce champion on California water issues. He was great on water. He wanted release the water, he'd scream at him. And a true defender of American children. He was a defender of everybody. And our hearts go out to his wife, Jill, and his entire family. He voted with me 100% of the time.
That proves he was great. It proves he was great. And really coming up, there is also the president gave a speech at the House GOP member retreat this morning and then weaved on one of his other favorite subjects, aside from transgender for everybody, the auto pen. Okay, wait till you hear it. You'll understand our predicament as never before. And more about Stephen Miller and saying the United States is already running Venezuela. More and more coming up on the Midnight Show. You hear that intoxicating music in the background, which bumps here and lunges there and goes one way and then the other way. And that could be called the weave. The weave could be a dance move, but it's actually a rhetorical move that was invented by Donald Trump. He said so. And the weave basically involves putting together a completely incoherent speech that connects disconnected themes. But you go from one to another, and President Trump believes that is the most entertaining and illuminating and inspiring form of oratory possible. And he relied on the weave this morning, giving a speech to the House GOP member retreat this morning at the Kennedy Center. And he weaved prodigiously on one of his favorite subjects, the auto pen. Listen.
The auto pen. And by the way, you want to make a big deal out of the auto pen. The auto pen was your president. because most of the things were signed by AutoPen. And you're not allowed to do that. I signed very little. Now I just sign everything because it's just so crazy. But, like I had the other day, we elevated a general to 4 stars. I think you should sign that. That's a big deal. A general did a great job, was elevated to 4 stars. And I had the gentleman, and I signed it in front of him, held it up. You got to sign that. You can't give it to an AutoPen. And you can always tell an AutoPen. One thing, it has 2 little tiny dots. You know that? 2 little dots. You know what that's from? 2 pins. They go bing, bing. They're wonderful things. But you got to sign it. And the law is you have to sign it. If somebody's, telling the AutoPen person, he has to be authorized by the President of the United States. Well, he wasn't. The guy barely knew the President. How many times did you speak to the President, right? He said 2. And they just spoke about the weather. It was like this. But he was never authorized to sign. And I think 95% of the things were signed by AutoPen. You can tell because the AutoPen is a nice, plain signature, and his signature's a mess. The only thing he signed was, which is nice, was Hunter's pardon. That's the only thing that we can find that he signed. Most of it he didn't sign.
This is, he continues to weave. Boom, pop, pop, dim, boom,
Bing,
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 bing.
bing.
Okay, fact check on AutoPen. The claim that the presidential AutoPen is illegal or that it invalidates official documents is false. That according to legal experts and historical precedent. The use of mechanical signing devices for U.S. presidents has a long history and is considered legally sound when authorized. You know who the first president was to use an AutoPen? Jefferson. Yes, Jefferson. He invented one. He invented how to do it. The U.S. Constitution does not specify that a president must physically perform the act of signing certain documents, including pardons. A 2005 Justice Department Office of Legal Counsel memo affirmed that a president can direct a subordinate to affix their signature, for example, by AutoPen, for a bill to become law. Historical use, presidents including Thomas Jefferson, Harry Truman, John F. Kennedy, Barack Obama, and Gerald Ford have used AutoPens or similar mechanical devices for various purposes such as correspondence, photos, and even legislation. Pardons are final. Legal experts widely agree that once a pardon is granted and delivered, it is final and cannot be unilaterally revoked by a subsequent president. An 1869 federal court ruling supports this, stating, quote, when a pardon is complete, there is no power to revoke it. Authorization is key. The legal validity hinges on whether the president authorized the use of the AutoPen for a specific document or batch of documents. Aides typically manage the process under the president's direction. There is no evidence to support the claim that Joe Biden used an AutoPen 95% of the time. This specific percentage and the broader claim that Biden was not involved in the decisions behind documents signed by AutoPen comes from unsubstantiated allegations made by Donald Trump and a Republican-led House Oversight Committee report, which Democrats on the committee have called a sham. Okay, part of this is culminated in the Walk of Fame. They have a Walk of Fame now in the White House, which was set up by President Trump. And it shows pictures of all of 46 of our 47 presidents, including the ones who served 2 non-consecutive terms. That's Donald Trump and Grover Cleveland. But in any event, the one picture that is missing is Joe Biden because he put in, ha, 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 not a picture of the president, but a picture of an AutoPen. This is the claim about the high percentage is been ruled as false, completely false. And the recent controversy, the use of the AutoPen became a point of political controversy when President Donald Trump claimed that pardons issued by former President Joe Biden were void because they were signed with an auto pen. Fact checks have consistently rated this claim as completely false, pointing to the lack of legal basis for such an action. The House Oversight Committee has investigated the use of the auto pen during the Biden administration, questioning the level of presidential awareness and control, but no evidence has invalidated the documents signed. Okay, but this doesn't stop the President of the United States from talking about this atrocity of the auto pen on the day that is 5-year anniversary of his greatest disgrace, which was the riot in the Capitol building, which he promoted. And there is no doubt that he promoted it. He asked the people who had assembled at the Ellipse, and people estimate there were more than 2,000 of them, and some people think much more. He urged them to march with him. He was going to be marching with them before he thought better of it. But he promised he's going to be marching with them to the Capitol building, and they were marching up with the chants of hang Mike Pence. Now, with all this going on, it may seem that why should we worry, given some of these disgraces and controversies of the past, about a new controversy about conquering and going to war with Denmark for control of Greenland. This is what we're going to be talking about, because the president's most influential advisor and prominent of advisors and most nefarious of advisors, too, I might add, talks about using military force against the home of Hans Christian Andersen, Denmark, a tremendously sympathetic country, and to use force to take control of Greenland, which is actually part of that friendly country, or it's been friendly until now. What would a battle between Denmark and the United States look like? It's not an appetizing prospect in any regard, but we will get to it. And President Trump's own condemnation of that kind of idea. That and more coming up on the Medved Show. And on the Michael Medved Show, one of the things that has happened in the world we live in the last 48 hours is the Critics' Choice Awards. And one of the award-winning films, Frankenstein, does create thoughts and reminiscences of Stephen Miller, because there are a number of characters, not just the main character, Dr. Frankenstein, played by Oscar Isaac, but characters throughout this now award-winning film who are ghoulish. And yes, Stephen Miller fits that description. And when it talks about his comments about using military force to seize the Danish property of Greenland, Mr. Miller, they write on CNN, made his comments after his wife posted an image on social media over the weekend suggesting that the United States would soon take control of Greenland. And as Mr. Trump has renewed his own push for the island, Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen of Denmark urged Mr. Trump on Sunday to stop the threats to annex Greenland, in effect attacking a NATO ally. The United States taking Greenland by force would rip apart the central agreement that underpins the NATO military alliance, of which Denmark and the United States are both founding members. Under that treaty, an attack on any member is treated as an attack on all members. Mr. Trump has previously said he would not rule out using the military to take Greenland. Mr. Miller also echoed Mr. Trump's intent, this is on an interview with Sheikh Tapper, to rule Venezuela and exploit its vast oil reserves after a U.S. raid seized President Nicolas Maduro and his wife from Caracas. Even some of America's staunchest allies have criticized the raid, and the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said the raid had violated the UN Charter. To which Stephen Miller says, what? He says this on CNN. This is clip 9.
What the president said is true. The United States of America is running Venezuela. By definition, that's true. Jake, we live in a world in which you can talk all you want about international niceties and everything else. But we live in a world, in the real world, Jake, that is governed by strength, that is governed by force, that is governed by power. These are the iron laws of the world since the beginning of time.
But in terms of day-to-day operations in Venezuela, that is acting President Rodriguez, right? It's not some sort of American emissary.
What I'm saying is, we'll keep going here, Jake. So I want to say what I'm saying, and you'll follow up. But what I'm saying is just one level above that, which is that by definition, we are in charge.
By definition, we are in charge. And so they continue their verbal battle about the U.S. seizing Maduro. Clip 11.
The future of the free world, Jake, depends on America being able to assert ourselves and our interests without apology. This whole period that happened after World War II, where the West began apologizing and groveling and begging
I don't even
and
know,
engaging these
honestly,
vast
what you're talking
reparation
about right
schemes.
now.
What I'm talking about, Jake, is the idea, and by the way, you do. I know you love doing that smarmy thing, Jake, and I was hoping to be better than that this time.
I asked you about if there should be an election.
Exactly.
I asked you if there would be an election in Venezuela. That's what I asked. I said, why was the president so quick to dismiss Machado? You answered that question. And then I said,
the objective, Jake, is security and stability for the people of Venezuela. With our help and leadership, that country will become more prosperous than it has ever been in its whole history. Venezuelans
but the woman running Venezuela right now is part of the Maduro regime.
There will be conversations, Jake, about all of these guideposts along the way. The reason why I was giving you that speech, which I know you didn't want to hear, is because you're approaching this from the wrong frame.
When he talks about all the years after World War II, the years after World War II were years of glorious leadership, including by President Eisenhower, and yes, very much by President Reagan, to help win the Cold War, which opposed to all the odds, we did. We won. The Berlin Wall got torn down. Then Stephen Miller was asked a very relevant question. By what right, he asked Stephen Miller, does Denmark assert control over Greenland? This is clip 10.
The president has been clear for months now that the United States should be the nation that has Greenland as part of our overall security apparatus.
Right, but your wife posted that like hours after the Venezuela operation. That's why it's newly relevant.
No, I'm not, and I'll talk with you about it for an hour. I think it's a really important conversation. I just wanted to reset, Jake, by making clear that it has been the formal position of the U.S. government since the beginning of this administration, frankly, going back into the previous Trump administration, that Greenland should be part of the United States. The president has been very clear about that. That is the formal position of the U.S. government.
Right, but can you say that military action against Greenland is off the table?
It wouldn't be military action against Greenland. The Greenland has a population of 30,000 people, Jake. The real question is, by what right does Denmark assert control over Greenland? What is the basis of their territorial claim? What is their basis of having Greenland as a colony of Denmark? The United States is the power of NATO. For the United States to secure the Arctic region, to protect and defend NATO and NATO interests, obviously Greenland should be part of the United States.
Okay. We already have some bases there. for years. And a Danish lawmaker whose name is Anders Vistisen also went on CNN and had this to say about the whole situation. This is a Danish point of view. Clip 13.
My response is that Denmark landed on Greenland before anyone ever thought about making the United States of America. So by that logic, the United States of America should go back to be a colony of the United Kingdom. But I don't see that as a very realistic outcome. And I think again and again we are seeing this administration talking about Greenland with no knowledge about the history of the place, with no knowledge about the fact on the ground. When Denmark sold what is today the U.S. Virgin Islands, the United States signed a treaty with Denmark 100 years ago that the United States of America, accepted Danish full control over the territory of Greenland. So if the United States administration is in doubt who gave us that territory, they can just go back and look into their own records and there see that it is among all the other countries in the world, the United States who have said that Greenland belonged to the territory of Greenland belonged to the Kingdom of Denmark.
The idea of this conflict, do you remember, it was not that many years ago, it was maybe 10, but there was a Islamic attack on Little Denmark because they had permitted or they had run some cartoons that were disrespectful of the Prophet Muhammad. And at that point, people in the Western world all rallied to the support of Denmark, which is an enlightened country with a remarkable history. Denmark was one of the few nations anywhere that was occupied and dominated by the Nazis, but resisted their attempts to round up and murder literally millions of Jewish people. The king of Denmark at the time, King Christian, actually put a Jewish star on his own clothing to show their defense of local people who had lived there in some cases for years. The idea that the United States wants to have a battle over control of Greenland with Denmark and with apparently the rest of Europe, which is rallying to Denmark's support, this is truly a bizarre moment and a very scary one for this greatest nation on God's green earth.